promise this is going to be a wild one. These guys, you will be well entertained. So welcome, I'm Susan, and this is our art discovery series on Glass Act. I should have separated you two. I should have known better. But anyway, so this is going to be fun. Each Friday we try to choose a different topic that we can have a lively discussion about, and we've been having some fun. Last year was an all-girl panel, and today it's all guys. We do have a fabulous female glass artist, Lee Wright, but she's not with us today. She's home, but I'll tell you where her spot is too at the end when we direct you. But so from this side, stage right, I always get that wrong. Caleb lives right here. In fact, he grew up close to where I live in Scottsdale. Seth, so Caleb Ziegler, Seth Fairweather lives here in East Valley. Troy, are you a native Arizonan? Close, okay. Troy also lives here, Tempe, and Anthony, you're kind of between here and Utah, right? At this moment, yep. I didn't invite that, right? Just a little nap. And then Mark Lewinsky, dual citizenship between Michigan and Arizona now, thankfully. We just got him to get a spot out here. So I'm going to have each of you, I'll start with Caleb, right? I think that's safe. We're going to start with you. Caleb, tell us a little bit about you and how you got into glass specifically, and then we'll go down the line.
All right. My name is Caleb Ziegler. I started, the first time I ever tried glass blowing, I was 16, I think. I saw it done at the Renaissance Festival. I really wanted to try it. My parents kind of helped me take a class in Tucson with one of my sisters. I went down there, we did it for 8 hours. I liked it. It was enough to convince me, yeah, go home and buy some equipment and see how it works. So that was in high school. Finished high school, I've been doing glass blowing ever since. I did not go to college, I didn't go to art school. Just been doing my thing. What were the other questions? That's a good start, okay. Why glass? I really like glass because you have to be in the moment. You can't really look away, you gotta pay attention. It's grounding. There's a lot of other things in life that are distracting and easy to do while you're distracted, like driving. Glass blowing, you have to be in the moment, focused, committed to what you're doing, sometimes with a team of people that you are responsible for the safety of. So it's an attractive thing. It just drew me in. Yeah. Mr. Fairweather?
Good to see you. I was not really that interested in art for a long time. I was very involved in science. I was getting ready to go to med school when I had an art requirement I had to get out of the way. And painting and drawing sounded kind of lame, to be honest. So I took glass blowing, and that was it for me. I transferred to, I did go to college. And so I transferred to a school known for their glass program and never looked back.
And where was it?
I started at Tulane down in New Orleans, and then I transferred to Alfred. That's right. And I transferred to Alfred in upstate New York, right in Corning.
We're here for you.
Very popular right now.
All right. So my name is Troy Mitty.
All right.
So my name is Troy Mitty. I grew up drawing and painting, but I got turned on to glass when I was hitchhiking through Europe as I was 20, and got turned on to abstract monumental stained glass, and that just lit me on fire. So I came back to the States and found a studio that hired me as the flunky to sweep the floors and learn what I could, and that was over 20 plus years ago, and that's what I've been doing my whole adult life. So there's something about glass that's just a magical medium. It responds to the environment, and I love the way it plays with light. And of course, in Arizona, we've got plenty of light. So that's me.
Awesome. And after this, we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of glass work that each of these guys do. But Anthony, tell us about you.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Barbano. Anthony Barbano. And, how I fell into glass work. Originally, my first love was ceramics. I had ceramics 3 times a day.
Right here. Keep it right here.
3 times a day in high school. There we go. And from ceramics, I went and got a welding degree as a safety net if I couldn't make a living out of my art work. And then after I got my welding degree, I went for a bachelor's of fine arts and a ceramic emphasis. And what really drew me to glass is the elusiveness of the medium. You go to any university, you're going to find photography, you're going to find painting, you're going to find ceramics. It's a lot different to find a mentor to teach you glass work. And some other things that drew me to glass is the dimension that you're able to get in the medium, and also that it is a medium that requires a lot of pyro. I'm definitely pyro at heart, so there you have it.
All right. That leaves us to Mark.
Mark Lewinsky. You guys sound like you've thought about this before you. Everyone had such good, thoughtful answers. I'm completely unprepared. I have no idea what I'm going to say. So, I'm a recovering engineer. I worked at Chrysler for 2 years. I did failure analysis in the material science labs. It was in a basement. We didn't see the sunlight. In the winter, I would not see sunlight. I would wake up 6:30, get to work by 7, get out by 4:30, no sunlight. So anyway, engineering was interesting, but it didn't provide the creative outlet that I needed. It's a big part of my existence is to create. I've always invented things since I was a young lad, and I was drawing and painting and sculpting. So coming out of high school, I wanted to do art. I actually had a scholarship to go to an art school. At the last moment, I decided to go to Michigan Tech and study engineering. So I was good in the sciences too. So I got the degree, I did the engineering, didn't like it. I got into glass. How did I even do that? My current wife has a family business and they do glass work. I used to work with them before she was my wife. I was friends with her brothers, and I was cutting glass and gluing it together and making sculpture and doing all this stuff. So when I got out of engineering and decided to do art, it was the first thing I had any inkling about. So, and I just decided glass would be a good place to go because there was guys like Chihuly and all these famous glass guys doing great things with the medium. So that was why I started glass. So I could have done anything, but what else are we supposed to answer?
Well, that's good.
Is that good?
That's good, yeah.
Does anyone
So,
want?
I think there's a question that probably everybody in the audience is thinking right now. How many times have each of you burned yourself? Anyone?
I've worked myself. I don't work as hot as you guys. So my work is kiln forming. So it's all inside, and I turn it on and I walk away. And I come back and it's done. But I do a little bit of cane pulling, and we do a little bit of we pull stringer and we pull cane, and it gets real hot, and you don't see that it's hot. It can be 600-700 degrees, sitting there looking like a normal piece of glass, and you go to grab it, and you find out it's not.
So that's a perfect segue. Actually, I'm going to have you keep the microphone. So to your left, you'll see, the far left, you'll see Mark Lewinsky's work of art, which is, in my mind, very unique and something I have not seen anywhere else. Perhaps it exists, but it's woven, and he did talk about kiln art. So now I kind of would love for each of you to talk a little bit about your particular method for glass, because each of you do something a little different. So we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm going to stand up for this. So, yeah, one of the great things about glass is you can do blown. I mean, you can do mosaic, you can sandblast, you can etch, you can do every form of different operation on this material, and it's limitless. That's one of the versatility of glass is one of the things that really got me excited about it. The bread's burning. My work is kiln forming, so I'm fusing, so the temperature of this piece never gets much higher than 1425 Fahrenheit. And I'm actually doing a weaving technique where I am able to melt strands of glass over molds to create crimped runs. They're actually crimped. I can't do this when it's hot. Like all you guys who work hot glass, you know it gets real sticky when it's soft and warm, when it stretches. So there's no way you could run glass past itself when it's in the molten state. So I'm actually crimping all the rows ahead of time, letting it cool, and then I'm able to weave the pieces through when it's laying flat at room temperature. So that's my technique. I have to fire it again over another ceramic mold to get it to shape out like this. That's the finishing touch. But this is, yeah, I ran into a wall. Anything else?
The color is...
So luckily for me, I can buy colored glass. That's the raw material. I can get it in full sheets, and I'm cutting it down with a glass cutter. I also take every little thin piece. If you come by my booth, number the back corner, go that way.
154.
Go that way. Yeah, I don't know, number something, but you'll see if you look in close. There's many strands of very finely pulled extruded glass. So I make all that material, and the wider bands on this piece are all cut from sheets. And then we have some pieces that my team and I work on that are twisted like canes. So all that material has to be formed first before I can do the weaving. And then,
how many times do you fire these?
so that's a good question. How many times? So the final firing shapes the whole work. That's the last step. So after it's woven, it gets fired over a mold, and then the undulation is brought about. But I fire these in batches, so I'll do a batch of every different color. So there might be 50 or 60 kiln loads of glass that have to be fired before this piece can be made, before I have the raw material to do it. But if you average that out, it's 2 firings. It's 2 firings. It's one to bend the pieces, and it's one to shape the whole piece. Is that enough?
How big is your kiln?
So I have several kilns. Which one? I have a kiln here in Arizona that's 3 by 6 feet, which is fairly common. I have several that are 2 by 4 feet. I have a kiln in Michigan that is 7 by 11 feet. And I'm really excited to say that we're going to be making some surfaces using this technique that'll be 10 by 6 feet. Yeah, it's going to be amazing work. We're building up to it. We're doing a couple commissions this year that are 6 by 4. I'm trying to bring a piece here that's 7 by 4. It's tough. We've got a lot of commissions we're working on, so that one's hard to get done. But yeah, I'll be doing 6 by 10 foot solid glass pieces, hopefully before the year is over. So just watch for those. They're going to be amazing.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think I might flip over to Caleb, because what we just heard from Mark is he starts with flat colored sheets that you cut using a sharp thing. You start with the raw, did you bring a rod? And then, so Caleb, if you can describe your technique of the lamp work, and Seth can be Vanna.
So I primarily do what's called flame working, which is using a oxygen propane torch to melt pre-shaped tubes and rods of glass. Sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're colored, but I buy them like this, and then from there I heat them up where I want to. I pull on them, I push on them, I bend them. If it's a tube, I can heat it up and blow into it, and then it's blown glass. I can make wine goblets. I can make, can I? Yes. I can make paper clips out of solid rods by heating them up and bending them. So, what'd you say, 1260, 1400? 1450?
To heat it soft?
Yeah.
Probably 1300.
Okay.
1250.
So my kiln that I just put things in to preheat before I put it into my torch is at about 1050 Fahrenheit. The torch gets up to 3000 Fahrenheit easily to really get the glass hot enough to move, because it's a different, stiffer kind of glass than what a lot of people use. So what was the other question?
So other tools of your trade.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Well,
The biggest thing about glass is you can't touch it while it's hot. So you have to have ways to hold it and manipulate it with other things. So that's a Kevlar glove. It's about 7 years old, so it doesn't work very well anymore. I use 3 of them stacked together to touch the glass when it's hot. I don't often do that though. Usually, this is a tool called jacks. You would make a wine goblet with this by squeezing it together, heating up the glass, and then opening up and pulling. You can shape the cup of a wine goblet with this simple piece of metal. But they are made for that. You can cut glass like a hot dog, snip it like a banana, put something in there and squeeze and cut it if it's hot. To cut cold glass, you use the other red tool over here, and you score it or scratch it, and it'll snap super easily just by a tiny little scratch. Yeah.
But glass is actually pretty strong.
Yeah, very strong. Buildings are made out of glass, you know? That is to hold the foot of a wine goblet.
He seems to be into wine.
Yeah.
Tell him how you made your paper.
So last year I had a piece that was a 2 foot long, almost 20-inch long push pin. And this year I have paper clips. So they're basically, the large ones are a 5 foot rod of glass bent 3 times into paper clips. And I just think it's kind of an ironic thing for me to make because my job couldn't be much further from a desk. And you know, it's one of those things you see every day, you never really think about it, but you can make them beautiful and interesting and kind of fun and whimsical and yeah,
And keep it together.
keep it together.
Very good. And I do see you did colored ones because at first they were all clear and now you've done a combo set there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, so kiln work,
Flame work.
flame work. I call it lamp work. Is it the
Lamp
same
work,
thing?
same thing.
Okay. And then Seth does, well, a little bit of everything. We have one of his blown glass, and I'm going to have you explain the difference between lamp or and that, and cast glass, and a little bit of everything with glass. But your turn.
Okay. So I started out with blown glass. Yeah, feel free to wave it around. It's my catch. So I started out with blown glass, kind of traditional Italian blown glass. I work out of a furnace full of molten glass. I use big metal pipes to pull it out and wave it around, push it, pull it until it turns into stuff. There's limitless things you could do with blown glass. So I wasn't satisfied with it, obviously, and had to do other things too. I cast glass, and
Twice as heavy.
twice as heavy, yeah. Casting glass, there's a couple ways to go about it. This is a hot casting, so this is made by scooping glass really hot out of a furnace with a big metal spoon and pouring it into a mold made out of sand. Fun story, I tore my bicep doing that last year after the show, so now I use a furnace that's up on legs, and actually the whole furnace tilts over and dumps glass out the front because I'm lazy. I also do kiln cast glass, which is it's kiln work, kind of like Mark's work, but I use a lost wax casting method. And I go hotter, usually 1580 to 1680 Fahrenheit, depending on what I'm melting. Yeah, actually, the only thing I don't really do is lamp working, because who needs it?
Sometimes he asks me to teach you. He wants to learn, he's just not good enough.
That's true. That's true. Which is why Caleb takes my classes when I teach.
The technique.
The better techniques.
We're actually best friends, we just hate each other.
It's a frenemy thing. Yeah, Troy, you want to tell us a few things about why you're special?
Can you tell him how long it has to cool?
It depends on how thick it is. A piece like what Susan's holding will cool off for about a week to keep it from cracking. The longest I've had to anneal any of my pieces is 3 months.
It's going wide.
3 months. Just because it has to cool off evenly. So everything has to be cooling at the same rate. Glass is an insulator, so it wants to cool off very slowly. The outside will cool off a lot faster than the inside. So if you have a really thick piece of glass, if it doesn't cool off evenly through the entire piece, it's going to have a stress fracture show up. So you have to anneal at the right rate, and it's exponentially. So it's if something's 2 inches thick and it takes 4 days, something that's 3 inches thick won't necessarily take 6 days, it'll take 12 days. It goes up a lot the thicker you get. Yeah.
Do you have to keep that in a separate temperature control thing so that it decreases gradually?
Yes. Most of the glass that I work with, it's a annealing point where everything relaxes and there's no stress. It's about 1,000 degrees. So everything's going to be in an oven to cool off slowly down to room temperature. Anything that I leave just in the air, whether it's blown or cast, unless it's just paper thin, isn't going to survive. I've made some cups that will survive, but not often.
Somebody asked a question. How did he? It looks like he's floating in there.
He is.
How did you do that?
It's much akin to putting fruit in Jell-O, where you dump it in while it's still a liquid, and then it freezes up and kind of you got pears floating around in the green Jell-O. You know what I'm talking about, Anthony. You're from Utah.
We used to call it a Jell-O salad.
Jell-O salad.
In the
yeah.
South, I hear it's congealed salad.
Gross. So I make the figure, and then I keep it warm in a kiln at about 1,000 degrees. Then I pour glass into the mold, and while it's still liquid, I'll sink the figure into it. I think you're mimicking my hand motions. It's like interpreting at a speech. And then the glass will freeze up, and I'll throw it into an oven. And by freezing up, I mean like 1,500 degrees. It's hot, actually. I don't know. That probably weighs 25 or 30
Yeah,
pounds.
I guess that's about right. So, okay, awesome. I bet we're gonna have more questions for you, but now I'm gonna toss it to my friend Troy, and Troy does multiple things: fused glass, stained glass. He also, I don't know what we call the terrazzo tile, the design work that you've done.
Public art.
Public art. If you've been to the, federal courthouse, hopefully not many of us have been there, but if you have, that's Troy's floor design that you're walking on.
All right. So, just like all these other guys, I became enamored with glass, and that's what turned me on and made me want to pursue glass as an expressive medium. Unlike these guys, it wasn't so much the sculptural aspect; it was more the graphic aspect. It was old world stained glass, what really attracted me to glass and wanting to paint with light. So I started doing stained glass, what we think of as traditional stained glass, although I'm taking a very contemporary spin on it. So I can take, much like Mark, I'm taking shards of colored glass and arranging them in a tapestry manner, and then assembling them, in this case, with lead cane or copper foil, as well as doing fused glass. So the fused glass, like what Mark does, I'm taking bits of ribbons of colored glass, I'm cutting them, I'm creating my composition, and I throw them in a kiln and melt them. I'm going a little hotter than Mark, so I'm going closer to 15, so they get all nice and fluid to one monolithic form.
That would ruin mine.
Exactly, it would ruin the beauty of what he's doing. I would lose all the topography. So, glass is a magic material. We're able to do so many different things. In this case, I'm doing, like Susan said, stained glass. That's what started me on the journey. More recently, I'm doing the fused glass combined with mixed medium, or I'm combining it with my acrylic medium paintings. So, like on this piece, she's about to grab. Yeah, you can grab it. No worries. Go, yeah. So, all the black that you see is actually the black of the glass is painted using traditional stained glass paints. The same paints that they've been using to create cathedral windows for 1,000 years. What I'm doing is a little bit different. I'm trapping it between layers of glass, heating it in the kiln, and creating these graphics. So, and then drilling it and mounting the glass. So once I spend all this time and energy and love in creating the piece, then I have to drill holes in it so I don't shatter it.
How do you do that without shattering?
Very carefully. Yeah, just like everybody else, you use the right tools, the right techniques. A lot of it is about technique, learning things over the years, muscle memory, and being respectful of the material. So, technically to drill the holes, I'm keeping it wet. I'm using a special drill bit. I'm being very patient and careful. Usually when I'm going to go drill holes, I never break the first 3 holes because I'm so careful and cautious, but then you get cocky and get a little too fast, and that's when you shatter it, and then back to the lab. But yeah, that's my game. That's what drives me with glass, is the graphics.
So this is painted glass, but you also use colored glass?
Exactly, yeah. So a lot of times with stained glass and fused glass, it's almost like quilting in a way. We're taking a material that's already colored, we're taking sheets of color and cutting it up and assembling it. In this case, I am painting my substrates. I'm taking a base layer of almond glass. I'm painting the graphic black circles, and then I'm piling on top of that my colored glass. So for me, for most of my work, I'm not applying colored glass or I'm not applying colored paints or enamels to my glass. I'm letting the colored glass come forward with the jewel tones.
And how many kilns do you have?
So my home studio, I just have a couple of kilns, nowhere near as big and ambitious. But I also have access to the Mesa Art Center, which is a fantastic facility where I have access to very large kilns that I can go as big and crazy as I want. And that's also where I'm able to access the hot shop, where I'm able to pull stringers and manipulate the glass wall top.
Awesome. I think this would be a good time for PSA. If anybody is interested in learning glass art, Mesa Art Center, right? You teach there? You teach?
Troy's our boss.
Troy's our boss.
Troy's the boss. Yeah. Yeah. Emerson's like, yeah, Dad. But it is really an extraordinary art center. I mean, we have other options here for art, but that's really an excellent one. So thank you. A little plug for that. All right, Anthony, let's talk about you.
Right. So.
Can I hold yours up? I'm afraid.
Hold this up.
Yeah, you do that. Do you want me to hold the marble?
Oh, if you wanted.
I'm afraid.
Then let it sit there. It's in there. It should be picked in there pretty well.
It's like the universe.
That's what I'm going for. Nebulous, to be specific. So to achieve my colors in the glass, I specialize in blowing 24 karat gold and pure silver into the glass to achieve my colors, rather than using a paint or other colored glass. And this process is known as physical vapor deposition, or more commonly known as fumed glass. And fumed glass was accidentally discovered about 30 years ago in the US. The 24 karat gold will give me oranges and magentas. The pure silver will give me whites and blues. And then when combined at different ratios, I achieve the greens and the yellows. And some of my other process, rather than fuming the gold and the silver into the glass, is filing the gold and the silver into, I guess, almost like a dust, and working that into the piece as well. So my current body of work, I'm trying to create in the marble that Susan's passing around. I'm specifically going after a nebula and the gases where stars are being born in space. And then from there, I'm putting them through an extensive photographing process to go from the micro to the macro. And then some of my other recent endeavors is crossing. So this accident was discovered on the torch, lamp working to be specific, 30 years ago, and taking that contemporary lamp working accident and crossing it over into more traditional Italian style furnace blown pieces. I think that covers it. Oh, pendants. People love those pendants.
I love nothing more than being able to wear art around my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got one over here.
How do you get the gold and the silver in there? You could say that?
So what I do is I'll get a small piece, maybe the size of a pinhead, and I'll warm up the end of the glass rod. I'll pick up that chunk of metal, and then I'll have a piece of gold and silver at the end of the glass rod, and I'll put that piece of metal in the flame of my torch. And when it becomes a molten puddle of metal at the end of the glass rod, the pressure of the torch will blow that puddle onto the piece of glass I'm working behind it. So it's like vaporizing the gold and the silver onto the bubble. I have my setup set outside, right outside my booth. If you ever want to see the demo of how it's done, just let me know. Yeah, 217.
So, much that I couldn't believe it was really an opal in there. Tell that story.
Yeah, I work opals into the pieces as well. Some of the other things that you can encase in glass is moldavite. Moldavite is a stone that has come through the Earth's atmosphere at such a hot temperature that it can withstand the heat of the glass. Some other things that you can work into glass is I've worked with maybe 7 or 8 human cremations and countless dogs. Oh, they were yeah. So anything that can handle that much heat, I'm willing to try to encase it.
So like a meteorite, did you encase it in a meteorite?
You know, I've thought about a meteorite. It's the coefficient of expansion. It's the way that the metal and the glass are cooling down. If the glass is cooling down at a lot faster rate than the metal, or vice versa, it'll cause the glass to check and crack. But it's always worth the test, you know.
Have a meteor done?
Doug's got meteors.
There's one going by tonight, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Put it in the nebula.
The nebula. So,
Nearly miss us.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, everybody. Okay. Isn't that cool? Now, as Anthony said, he is set up. So Anthony's spot is right around the corner, and he has his tent out there. You can watch him do it. Right before the show, one of the local publications called, I always submit stuff for editorial, and the editor sent me an email. I'm on deadline. I have a question. Is that really opal inside that pendant? And I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I'm honest. I said, he just makes the glass look like an opal. And I didn't take time to call him because we were on deadline. I'm like, no. So when Anthony first came in and I was checking him in, I'm like, okay, I have a question for you. And I was wrong. He actually blows the opal into the glass, and that's one of the pendant I have on right now. But and people have come in, and I said, well, okay, so I wasn't accurate, but you're going to be in the Phoenix magazine. And people have come in because of that, and Anthony had the opportunity to enlighten them to what it really is. So that's good. That's what we're about. You go direct to the artist. You don't have to go through me. But you can watch Anthony. Caleb has his studio set up at the end, his furnace. So he's very popular when it's cold out.
Everybody hates me in March.
They don't like it so much in March, but occasionally he wants to do marshmallows, but we do not allow that. But yeah, you can warm up. In fact, you should not touch the furnace.
It's a kiln, yeah.
Kiln. Yeah.
It's usually hot.
Yeah. Troy is always assembling, but no hot stuff. No hot stuff here.
Yeah.
We're all hot stuff, Susan.
Yeah, they're all hot. Yep.
That was good.
Seth, he plays chess.
I will. I read books.
Okay. But it is fascinating. So you do want to make sure that you get to see their spaces. So last week, somebody asked a question that turned out to be a really great one, and I think you guys might have already answered it. But at what point did you know that you were a professional artist and there was no turning back? Like this was it. You didn't have to do that backup welding career. Like, did it happen pretty quick, or we know none of you are starving now, so I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, that's a good one because I had a good job. I mean, I was gainfully employed. It was no problem. And I remember I decided I was very unhappy working. The engineering. It was interesting for 2 years, then it just became old. And I remember I came home and I told my parents I was quitting my job and I was going to pursue a career in art. And they just they wilted. I mean, it was like 5 years of engineering school gone down to 2. No, in my case, it worked out great. Engineering and art go hand in hand. They really do. They're very compatible sciences. But as soon as I didn't have any idea when I quit my job what I was going to even do. I just knew it was going to be art, and I just stumbled into glass, and I just never doubted for a moment that it was going to all be fine. I knew I'd be good at doing whatever it was I was going to do. I didn't know what that was. And I just held on to that belief, and after probably a couple years of little trial and error, I was onto one body of work that was already making me money, and it was only in the last 5 years I started doing this work, which was really my best probably to date. I think there'll be better things coming, but I quit a good job to do this, never doubting that it was going to be fine. So that's the answer.
When did we know? We can do this as a
Yeah. Give me a backup plan.
That was 1999.
99.
99 for me.
To do this as a profession, I've always felt that I've been an artist, and I've always been fascinated with creating and imagination. And I think as an artist, one of the biggest things, you can teach craftsmanship, you can teach technique, but imagination is huge. And I've always loved to exercise my imagination, but when it became real that I could make a living doing this as a profession, I would say it was probably 7 years ago I've been doing this as a profession, and I just started off doing little weekend shows, and I had a great response to the work, and I was making better money than I was working at Coca-Cola. And when I was working at Coca-Cola, I was just wanting to make my artwork, and I had that in the back of my mind, and then I just went for it, and it treated me well so far. So feel fortunate that way.
That's awesome.
All right, so to be totally honest, the only thing I ever really thought of myself as being was an artist. I've never had a real job. Best thing. So, that's what I always thought of myself as growing up and getting out there and doing my thing. I got turned on to glass in my early 20s and started working in other studios. So, I realized, okay, I can earn a living, kind of, working in studios as a studio assistant, as a technician, learning the craft, and that was hugely gratifying. But I guess if I'm, again, being totally honest, when I first started getting my first large-scale public art commissions, when I had the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture, throwing money at me to design flooring that'll be permanently installed for generations to come, I thought, okay, damn, I guess I made it. I guess there's no turning back now. Not that there ever was turning back. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at.
Are you raising a young artist, Emerson? Are you a future glass guy? Maybe. That's great. You. You and the science of art, like those of you who come every week, we always talk about solving problems and how science does play a lot to do with art, and you have such a scientific brain. That's a lot of your creativity is based on some of that.
Yeah, I think just the science of figuring out how to make what you design, that's always been attractive to me. I think, my wife will tell you I'm very all or nothing in everything that I do. So once I decided I wanted to do glass, that was it. That was all I was going to do. And, you know, I would follow jobs around. I was homeless for a long time looking for, I'd move at the drop of a hat across the country if it gave me a chance to learn something new about glass or how to build the equipment. It's already in my mouth. What more do you know? So I would just give everything to glass to be able to learn more about it, and it is pretty much all I did until I got married, and then all of a sudden I needed a lot more money. Because kids just take everything. So I had to branch out and do other things to make ends meet for a while, but I'm back to doing this full time. So I think for me, as soon as I tried glass and realized it's what I wanted to do, nothing else was going to be enough. So I knew as soon as I got a pipe and a furnace the first time.
Shout out to your wife.
So yeah.
This is my first wife, Leah.
So
one.
she is all their wives are special. But I got to tell you, the first time I met these two, no, I had met Caleb. Anyway, so Seth had been juried into the show, and we had a late cancellation, and I got an application from Caleb, and it wasn't quite complete. It wasn't quite complete, I'll say that. But I thought there's something special about this guy. And he had been referred by both Troy and Caleb, because I sent an email out saying just had a cancellation, because we curate the show so that we put the best variety and the talent together for you. So I got Caleb's application. I'm like, I see a lot of potential. He's almost there. So I called him up, or we talked on the phone, and he's like, I don't think I'm quite ready. He's like, I'm trying to work on this whole new body of work. I said, then you need to do it this year, because you'll grow at the show. So then one day we were setting up, and if you've ever seen this tent before artists arrive, some of you have, it's just not beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. They do a great job setting it up, but the energy's not here. So I'm over in the corner looking at a studio space, and I see these two guys walk through the front door, and one of them's carrying a baby. Who's bringing a baby here during setup? And it was all in. It was set. Like, I'm in charge of the kid today, so they all came out. And you guys
carpooled that day.
Yeah, you carpooled. Yeah. So ever since then, they've been part of the team, part of the family, and we love them. So, and really adorable children. So, and you, when did you know? Was it when I told you you had no choice but to create new work?
Yes. So unlike Mark, I have never had a good job. I've never had really any job at all. But yeah, leading up to this show, the first year that I did this show, things were not great. I was not making good money. I was not super happy with where my art career was going. So yeah, I think officially when I knew, I'm not going anywhere for a while, was after this show ended the first year, 2017. And I think I did better financially at this show than I had done in the 2 years prior, working my butt off at home. So yeah, Susan and this show has changed my life, and I'm extremely grateful for everything that it's done for me.
And your work is awesome.
Thank you.
So see, that's what I do. I'm not an artist, but I curate people, and when I recognize the talent, I get excited. I'm like, oh, I can't wait till they come to the show and become a part of it, and to watch what happens with the artists as they evolve, because they all feed off of each other, and the community here is something that we're all very happy about and grateful for. So, blah blah blah. I talk too much. Okay, let's open it up to questions that some of you may have for any of our different artists. We're going to start right there.
All glass isn't equal. You've got Gorilla Glass, you've got Pyrex, you've got everything. How do you decide which glass you're going to use? And you mix different grades of glass.
I'll repeat that for those who couldn't hear on Facebook. All glass is not equal. There's different kinds of glass. How do you decide what kind you need to do your work?
All right, I'll jump in. Just because when I'm working with stained glass, I can pretty much use anything because I'm combining it with other metal, lead came or copper foil and solder. So when I'm working specifically with stained glass, compatibility or the origins of the glass or the material is irrelevant. Whatever I think works for me and whatever achieves the look that I'm going for works. When we're fusing, it has to be compatible, something that Mark alluded to. The coefficient, or maybe Tony did, the coefficient rate of expansion is crucial. But I think these guys probably can tell you a lot more about the specifics of the glass they use.
Anyone? Go
It
for
all comes down to coefficient of expansion, and a lot of the, I don't know why you're laughing. I know why.
Sounds so smart.
It's all an act. But most of the glass out there in the world is a soda lime glass, and that constitutes millions of different kinds of glass. So Gorilla Glass, spaghetti sauce jars, beer bottles, the stuff I make, it's all soda lime glass. It's based in soda ash and silica. Torch working it's Pyrex or borosilicate. It's a different kind of glass that is made to withstand higher temperature, but is less thermally reactant, so you can get it hotter while you still have it cold in your other hand. So it's really, you can melt anything, but what's going to be the easiest to work with? I blow glass that's been formulated to stay hot longer, stay soft longer, and then cool more evenly, and cool more slowly. Pyrex is made to take a long time to get hot, and it sets up very quickly. But it can handle a lot more thermal stress than the stuff I work with. So it really just depends on what you're doing. You can melt any kind of glass, but most of them are very difficult to work with in a molten state.
Good question.
We'll add one more glass to that. You know, if you're going to be casting glass, you can cast with the lead crystal, and that way you will pick up all the detail that you want to capture in that casting. Where, say, maybe like a 96 coefficient COE, it wouldn't pick up the fine details. So exactly what they're saying is, it's what you're trying to achieve that it's going to dictate what type of glass you're using.
Excellent. And yes.
Do you
Please.
regret sometimes that you are an artist but not a doctor, for instance?
Do you regret sometimes that you're an artist but not a doctor?
I'm going to assume that's directed at me because I know who she is. No, I don't. I always have an interest in anatomy and physiology, and you can see that a lot in my work, but I don't think I would be as satisfied cutting people's faces open. Maybe I would. It's a hobby, what are you going to do? But no, I haven't looked back.
The first Art Discovery, we had the collaboration one, and Seth and Kathleen had collaborated on it's gone now, but he had a little figure and all these little strings. And somebody asked a question about it, and it was, go ahead, I don't know how to say it.
It was based on the structure of the nervous system, getting more and more macro as you moved into the painting.
You know what's funny though? Do people ever just say to a doctor, do you do this for a living? Like, seriously. How many people say that to you? Do you really do art for a living?
I do freestyle surgery.
That was good though. Anyone else want to answer that? Dr. Mark? No?
Well, mine was engineering, but I can't say I regret not being an engineer because I engineer every day that I am in my studio working on my pieces. There's problem solving to do. There's mechanical aspects that I have to be aware of when I'm making a large piece. So I never ever got away from my profession when I entered into my art. I just shifted, laterally and just applied it to the creative, the glass that I do. So I'm still doing it.
And a lot of you work is with other people helping, so you have to be good communicators and be able to give good direction too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yes?
That's kind of a segue to my question is, some of you have alluded to having a team. So what does that mean? How many people do you have working with you and how does that all happen?
Okay, the question is how do the people who do have team or work together on projects, how do you do that? How does it happen? Like,
Can I answer? So I have, my work involves cutting a lot of glass, and I'm not going to sit there and cut glass all day. If you've ever cut glass, it's about the most boring thing you can do, just sitting there. I score and I break, I score and I break. So I actually have people back in the studio, and their primary job is just cutting the thin strips of glass.
And how many people is that?
I use between 2 and 3. And I have a guy that there's people that just make boxes and crates, and I have people that ship, and there's people that have no art ability whatsoever that I employ to get the efficiency that I need to keep making work. And there are people that are more involved in the creation of the pieces. Like I have one guy, his sole job is to pull the strings. Just to pull the strings. He pulls strings. So I'm not going to sit there and do it all day. I am the member of the team that we have that seeks and creates the larger vision. And I have to be the salesperson too, and I have to and the artist. But it's imperative, to do this and to make money doing this. We all want to make a living doing this. It's you could be a starving artist, and that's fine. It's much more fun to make money, and you have to have the help of other individuals to get you to that level. So anything that's very boring to do that isn't crucial to the creation and the look of this work, I can try to find someone to do that, and that's preferable.
it's like Chihuly has teams of people.
I'm still working on a team that big.
Anyone else?
So actually, I often do cut glass all day long. And it's far from boring. I mean, unless you're just cutting straight strips. But if you're doing something sexy and curvy and intricate, it can be fun. Right on. So that said, most of my work, the work that I'm showing, that I'm signing my name to, it's all me. It's all my hands. It's creating. I very rarely work with a team. Aside from the team that's creating the material, a lot of times I'm using mouth-blown glass from Germany or France, and obviously there's a team of craftsmen over there that's creating the sheets of glass that I'm cutting up. But most of my work, it's all my two hands, unless I'm doing a large-scale public art piece. A lot of my work that I've done over the years where I'm doing, if you're doing 70,000 square feet of flooring and 13 floors of building, obviously I've got a team of guys that are operating heavy equipment. So in those regards, yeah, just like Mark, I'm the guy that's doing the design. I'm the guy that's drawing it out. It's all done with my hands. I'm using colored pencils or watercolor or whatever I need to convey my vision to that team. And hopefully you have a team that you feel comfortable with and you have a nice rapport and they're able to translate your vision into that reality. So I guess in my personal practice, that's the difference between you know, my more intimate work as opposed to my larger scale public art. But some, I know some of the glass blowers, definitely it's more of a choreographed dance where they'll need one or two trusted individuals to help them. So I'm sure these guys can speak on that.
I guess I'm the odd man out. I'm really the only person that has to have somebody. When I'm blowing glass, it's really hard to make things by yourself. It's awful. So I work with people when I'm blowing glass. A lot of my cast work is done just me. But blowing glass is definitely a team sport. I have, depending on what I'm making, anywhere from 1 to a dozen people working on one thing at a time. Caleb works for me. He's my apprentice. I own his soul.
Stand-up comedian.
None of that is true. Quit.
This is not reality TV, guys. No, not allowed. Okay, good question though. That's great. Any other questions?
Yeah, what over here, Susan?
Yes.
Colleges that specialize in glass blowing like this, that's a major.
As someone who went to college,
Later.
yes, there are programs that specialize in glass and glass art. Like Alfred or Tyler, Ohio State. Chico has a glass program. California College of Art, chime in guys. RISD, good one. Mass Art.
That's Rhode Island School of Design.
Yeah, we know.
And then
University of Miami. Wisconsin has one, yeah. And River Falls in Wisconsin has a small one.
And then on more of a casual front, again, plugging
Mesa Art Center.
Mesa Art Center, and art centers around the country are blowing at teaching techniques for fused glass and stained glass and glass painting and some blown glass. So probably somewhere near you, there's an art center that has at least some sort of a program for, you know, amateur enthusiasts. So leave it at that.
Here's one. Is there any public glass art, or what art has inspired you? Your story of hitchhiking through Europe and being inspired by stained glass windows. I mean, we all would love that.
All right, so I feel like I've told this story so many times, it's getting stale. But yeah, for me, like that's what lit me on fire, for sure. Seeing monumental abstract stained glass from the post-war German movement, where they were taking these blown out Gothic cathedrals and trying to separate from the past and throwing in these super contemporary, big, bold fields of color and expressive line work. That's what lit me on fire and made me want to pursue it. But now, like several people have mentioned Chihuly, which I'll leave. So Chihuly, one of the great things about him is that he has taken what was once a smaller studio art and turned it into a monumental art form, using a team and taking it big. And I think that's inspired probably all of us in the art form.
The Chihuly exhibit in Seattle. I mean, even if you think you've seen Chihuly, I mean, it's stunningly gorgeous. Yep. Okay. Is that, did we answer that? Inspired? Well, never mind. It doesn't matter what inspired you. Okay, other questions? Yeah. There's a lot to be inspired by. Okay, I'm going to tell you where each of these guys are, and also I'll tell you where Lee Wright is. And Lee does primarily fused, frit, which is also fused. Okay. So you'll notice a trend. We keep most of these guys in the corner, except for Troy. Mark is in the far left corner at that end. Studio 154, I think. I can't remember. Anthony is right around the corner here. facing the courtyard, and you can see his pendants, and he also has some stunning vases and wall pieces that we didn't even talk about over here. Troy, he's a little bit safer, so we do keep him on the courtyard, but he's, and he has the stained glass pieces hung so you can see the light behind him. These two, my friends, Caleb and Seth, are down at the far end over here on the south tent. Each of them in their own corner. We had to separate them.
Follow the caution tape.
Follow the caution tape, yes. So anyway, I'm a huge fan of glass, and it's been really exciting for us to be able to evolve into offering such a wide array of styles of glass here. And I said to these guys a couple weeks ago that I'm really honored that we have, I think, some of the most amazing glass artists in the country right here in one place. Oh, and Lee Wright, Lee shares a space with her husband, Bruce Marion, and they're kind of midway on the south tent, so you can see some of her work as well. So thank you all very much, and we hope to see you back next week.